Trapped in a suffocating and abusive marriage to her violent husband Adrian, a wealthy optics scientist, Cecilia seizes the chance to escape. In the dead of night, with her sister Emily's help, she puts her plan into action. Cecilia drugs Adrian with diazepam to incapacitate him temporarily and navigates through their heavily secured house. She sneaks into Adrian's work lab, disables the security alarm, and heads for the garage. On her way out, Cecilia frees their dog, accidentally triggering the car alarm. The noise awakens Adrian, who quickly realizes her plan and begins chasing her. Determined to break free from his control, Cecilia flees into the nearby forest, where Emily waits to pick her up, unaware of the full extent of the danger. Just as they're about to drive away, Adrian emerges from the woods and tries to stop them, injuring his hand in the process. In the chaos, Cecilia drops the bottle of diazepam on the road, which Adrian later discovers, a key clue to her daring escape. 2 weeks later, Cecilia is living in hiding at the home of her best friend, San Francisco police detective James, and his teenage daughter, Sydney. Struggling with intense fear and trauma, she remains reclusive, too terrified to leave the house. Her anxiety spikes when Emily comes to visit, as Cecilia believes Adrian could have followed Emily and discovered her location. However, Emily brings shocking news: Adrian has committed suicide. To prove it, she shows Cecilia a breaking news report confirming his death. Despite the news, Cecilia is overcome with mixed emotions and remains skeptical of Adrian's apparent suicide. She confides in Emily and James, revealing the extent of the abuse she endured during their relationship. Cecilia recounts how she took birth control pills in secret to avoid having a child with Adrian, fearing it would further trap her under his control. Shortly afterward, Adrian's brother, Tom, a lawyer, contacts Cecilia to inform her that Adrian left her a substantial inheritance of $5 million. Reluctantly, Cecilia accepts the money but uses it primarily to fund Sydney's college tuition and support James' household. Despite these new developments, she is haunted by an unsettling feeling that someone is watching her. One night, Cecilia's fears manifest in a terrifying way. While sleeping next to Sydney, she is disturbed when their blanket is slowly pulled off. A series of faint flashes of light follow, waking her. She notices the blanket at the foot of the bed, but when she tries to pull it back, it won't budge. To her horror, she sees a faint, visible footprint pressed into the fabric, as if someone invisible is standing there. The footprint begins to move toward her, and Cecilia is paralyzed with fear. Panicked, she calls for James, waking both him and Sydney. However, when they rush to her side, Cecilia struggles to explain what she believes she witnessed. Her terror leaves James concerned, who assures her she is just traumatized and paranoid. The following day, Cecilia attends a job interview for an architect's position. When she opens her portfolio to present her work, she is shocked to find it completely empty. Before she can fully process this unsettling discovery, she begins to feel dizzy and collapses. At the hospital, Cecilia learns she has been drugged. The doctor informs her that blood tests are being processed, and they will provide results shortly. Upon returning home, Cecilia receives a call from the doctor, who reveals that her blood contained enough diazepam to cause a mild overdose, explaining her fainting spell. To her horror, she discovers the same bottle of diazepam she had used during her escape from Adrian, now mysteriously returned to her possession, complete with the bloodstains from that night. Terrified and feeling unsafe, Cecilia confronts her fears. Accompanied by James, she meets with Tom, Adrian's brother. She presents the diazepam bottle, emphasizing its sinister reappearance, and insists that Adrian faked his death. Cecilia is convinced he is using his advanced optics technology to render himself invisible and torment her. Tom dismisses her claims, adamantly stating that Adrian is truly dead. To support his argument, he shows her photographs of Adrian's deceased body. Despite this evidence, Cecilia remains unconvinced. She clings to her belief that Adrian has staged his death to continue his cruel manipulation, certain that the nightmare is far from over. Cecilia visits Emily, hoping to confide in her, but is met with anger and hostility. Emily accuses Cecilia of sending her a hateful email, leaving Cecilia shocked. She insists she didn't send the message, but Emily refuses to believe her and cuts off contact. Distraught, Cecilia returns home to investigate and discovers that the email was indeed sent from her account. Overwhelmed by the betrayal and confusion, she breaks down in tears. Later, Sydney finds Cecilia sobbing in the dark and tries to comfort her. Suddenly, Sydney is attacked by an unseen force. Panicked, she assumes Cecilia was the one who hit her. James intervenes, furious at Cecilia, and refuses to believe her explanation. Convinced that Cecilia is unstable and a threat, he decides to take Sydney away to a safer location. Left alone in the house, Cecilia becomes determined to prove that an invisible presence is tormenting her. Acting on instinct, she calls Adrian's phone, and to her shock, it rings from the attic. Summoning her courage, she climbs into the attic and calls the phone again. This leads her to a crawl space where she finds not only Adrian's phone but also unsettling evidence: photographs of her sleeping, James' missing kitchen knife, and her stolen work materials. As she tries to make sense of the discovery, the phone buzzes with a chilling text message: "Surprise." Suddenly, Cecilia senses she is not alone. Acting quickly, she dumps a bucket of paint onto the attic ladder, revealing the outline of an invisible figure. In terror, she stumbles backward but quickly regains her composure. When she checks again, the figure has vanished. Descending the attic, now armed with a knife, Cecilia follows the paint trail, which leads her to the kitchen sink, where the paint has been hastily washed off. Before she can react, the invisible figure grabs her by the neck and violently shoves her across a table. A fierce struggle ensues, with Cecilia fighting desperately for her life. She manages to break free from the attacker's grasp and escapes the house, her terror now fully realized. She is being hunted by someone she cannot see. In the following scene, Cecilia decides to investigate Adrian's house to uncover the truth behind his supposed death. She sneaks into the property and makes her way to Adrian's private laboratory. There, she discovers a high-tech bodysuit he had been developing, capable of rendering the wearer completely invisible. This groundbreaking invention confirms her worst suspicions. Adrian faked his death and is using the suit to torment her. Realizing the importance of the suit as evidence, Cecilia takes it and hides it in the closet of their former bedroom. As she tries to compose herself, she suddenly feels a chilling presence. To her horror, the closet door slides open on its own, and she notices a faint footprint entering the space. Panicking, she tries to escape but is attacked by the invisible figure until her dog returns and intervenes, giving Cecilia the precious seconds she needs to escape. Having shattered her perception of reality, Cecilia arranges a meeting with Emily at a restaurant, hoping to reconcile and clear the air. She apologizes and expresses her love for her sister, gradually breaking through Emily's skepticism. As they begin to reconnect, Cecilia explains that she has uncovered the truth about her stalker and reveals her discovery of the invisible suit in Adrian's lab. Suddenly, a knife appears seemingly out of nowhere and slashes Emily's throat, killing her instantly. The knife is then placed into Cecilia's hand, framing her for the murder. Cecilia is arrested and subsequently transferred to a sanitarium, awaiting trial. While grappling with doubt over her own sanity, Cecilia learns from the hospital staff that she is pregnant, a fact revealed during her earlier blood test. Emotionally overwhelmed, she starts to lose hope, but then receives an unexpected visit from Tom. He informs her that the financial inheritance has been frozen due to her current circumstances. He then delivers a shocking revelation: he has been working with Adrian all along. Tom explains that Adrian had tampered with Cecilia's birth control to ensure she would become pregnant. He presents her with a sinister ultimatum: either she agrees to return to Adrian and raise the child with him, or she loses the fortune and remains confined to the sanitarium permanently. Furious and grieving over Emily's murder, Cecilia refuses the offer, standing firm in her resolve. As he departs, she discreetly steals one of his pens, determined to find a way to fight back against Adrian and reclaim her life. That night, Cecilia decides to take drastic action, intending to kill herself by slashing her wrist with the stolen pen. However, her plan is a trick to draw the invisible man out of hiding. As he intervenes to stop her, Cecilia attacks, stabbing him repeatedly with the pen. The suit malfunctions, causing the figure to glitch, appearing and disappearing erratically. The commotion draws a security guard, who tries to intervene but is overpowered by the glitching figure. Cecilia seizes the opportunity to flee into the hospital hallway, where more security guards confront her. They, too, witness the malfunctioning figure and attempt to subdue him, but the invisible man easily overpowers them before escaping into the stormy night. Determined to stop him, Cecilia arms herself with a gun and pursues the figure to the hospital parking lot. When she confronts him, he effortlessly overpowers her, threatening with dire consequences. He will now target Sydney to ensure Cecilia complies and protects her unborn child. As he escapes, Cecilia fires at him, causing a nearby car to crash. Using the distraction, she commandeers the vehicle and speeds toward James' house, calling him to warn of the impending danger. Realizing Sydney is alone, James races home but arrives to find her under attack by the unseen figure. James attempts to intervene but is brutally beaten, leaving him incapacitated as Sydney watches in terror. Just as the situation grows dire, Cecilia breaks in and sprays the figure with a fire extinguisher, revealing the invisible man's shape. She then fires multiple shots at the figure, bringing the attacker down. As the figure lies dying, Cecilia removes his mask, revealing him to be Tom. Shortly afterward, police raid Adrian's house and find him alive, tied up in the basement. Adrian claims Tom had held him prisoner, shifting suspicion entirely onto his brother. James suggests the evidence points to Tom orchestrating the attacks to target Cecilia. However, Cecilia remains unconvinced. She believes Adrian and Tom conspired together, with Adrian planning for Tom to take the fall if their scheme failed. Despite Adrian's apparent innocence, Cecilia is certain he is still the mastermind behind her torment. Still reeling from the recent events, Cecilia calls Adrian and agrees to meet him for dinner. She arrives prepared, wearing a hidden listening device, with James stationed outside the property to monitor the situation. The dinner takes place under the watchful eye of a security camera, which records the interaction. As they sit down, Cecilia agrees to consider reconciling with Adrian but sets a condition: he must confess to Emily's murder. Adrian denies involvement, insisting that Tom was the one responsible and had manipulated him as well. He claims that the ordeal has changed him, making him realize the mistakes he made in how he treated her. Cecilia remains skeptical, especially when Adrian utters the word surprise, a phrase he used to torment her while laying invisible. This subtle slip confirms her suspicions. Maintaining her composure, she excuses herself to the bathroom, leaving Adrian alone at the table. Moments later, Adrian senses something is wrong. Suddenly, his head is violently jerked back, and his throat is slashed by an unseen force. The entire event is captured on the security camera, making it appear as though Adrian has taken his own life. He collapses onto the floor, bleeding profusely. Cecilia re-enters the room, feigning shock and distress as she calls the police to report an apparent suicide. However, once she steps out of the camera's view, her demeanor changes. She coldly stares at the dying Adrian and, with a taunting smirk, echoes his own chilling word back to him, surprise? When James arrives at the scene, he finds Cecilia calmly exiting the house with her dog and carrying a handbag. She confirms the narrative that the security cameras captured. Adrian appeared to have taken his own life by slitting his throat. However, as James observes her closely, he notices the outline of the invisible suit tucked inside her bag and realizes that Cecilia orchestrated the entire event to murder Adrian. Despite this revelation, James chooses to remain silent, allowing her to leave while pretending not to have noticed the suit. Cecilia leaves into the night, perhaps with the plan of stealing her husband's work for her own future benefit.